That wasn't flying, that was falling with style.
So that was the point that we wanted to make. My PC is a lot faster than, it's a lot smaller than that and a lot faster than that. We've got Buzz Lightyear right here. How many of you have seen Toy Story? How many of you have seen it more than once? Yeah, it's an amazing movie. So what we're going to talk about is failing with style, and I hope he doesn't take off here. Leveraging opportunities to learn from failure. My name is Erik Steiner. I'm vice president for Steiner Hearing Instruments in Israel. Happens to be a family company founded by my grandparents 65 years ago. And I've been there for the last few years, but I've been doing a lot of things before and also during that. My background, I'm an engineer. I have an MBA from the Olin Business School at Washington University in St. Louis, and a master's in business research from Stanford Business School, which was a consolation prize for doctoral studies, which I failed to complete. I have had the pleasure of being involved directly with about 8 different startups, actually exactly 8 different startups over the last years, and have been indirectly involved with over a dozen more. And I've also gained a lot of experience designing, creating, and launching dozens of products in a variety of different industries. There's a gentleman here with us in the audience who'll be speaking later today. He wrote a wonderful book called Positive Failure. Alistair, where are you hiding? Oh, okay. And I want to quote him. In reading his book, I found that we've been thinking a lot of the same thoughts. One of those thoughts definitely is the following one. In time, everything will fail. From the new washing machine to the sun and the universe itself. So if you had not understood that until now, failure is inevitable. Maybe we should start with a definition of failure. This is my own definition of failure. You're welcome to argue it, suggest other definitions. Not right now, maybe, because it'll take a long time. But basically, this is what I've written also online as a definition for the hashtag failure. A result different from what one expected following action purposely taken. Now, when we talk about failing with style, what I'm referring to is not letting those opportunities go to waste. You're going to come across a lot of opportunities in your life. A lot of you have already come across a lot of opportunities. You're going to try some things. Most of them are going to fail, and we'll look at some statistics, and that is the reality. There are people who are luckier, like the fellows who just sold WhatsApp lately. But most of us will go through a lot of failures before we ever meet with any success. And the important thing is to take those failures, learn from them, and then create new opportunities out of those learnings. An opportunity is no more than what we make of it, and if we do nothing at all, then it's worthless. So, have any of you been to, I imagine there's no one here from California, but have any of you been to California? Have you seen the redwoods? So the redwoods are the most amazing trees in the world. This right here, believe it or not, is a redwood seed. I'm sorry about the dirty fingernails. But that's a redwood seed, and you know, it seems so small and insignificant, but it has the capacity, like the idea, to become something huge, to become a redwood that can be up to 380 feet tall and live up to 700 years. So that's quite an opportunity inside that really tiny little piece of almost nothing, a tiny little piece of organic material. Actually, I've got about 40 of them in this bag right here. And I think that's enough to take over the entire, and I hope I'm going to say this right now, Loughborough campus. So how big can a redwood get? Up to 380 feet. That's about 20 meters taller than Big Ben. So, you know, sorry about that, but To get there, it's really quite amazing. Each redwood will produce between 6 and 8 million seeds annually. 95% of those are not viable from the get-go. Less than 5 of those may survive. So on average, there are 7 million failures per tree per year encapsulated in each one of those trees. But properly nurtured, like an idea, like an opportunity, one of those tiny little seeds can grow into something unbelievable, 380 feet tall. I don't know how. Some of them, some of them are so wide you can drive a car through them. Maybe some of you have if you've been there. And something that can live on average for 500 years. Of course, once it sprouts, it still has a lot to fight through before it'll ever get there. But nature in general, nature is all about failure. Everything in nature fails. Like Alistair wrote, everything fails eventually. Let's talk for a minute about human reproduction. 300 million sperm, 1 egg. Okay, 300 men, 1 woman. Do you know why that is? I'm sure someone knows. Because men never stop to ask for directions, right? So failure in nature, about 300 million sperm per try, okay? On average, a 25% chance of fertilizing that egg every try. That's 1.2. Now, if you thought redwoods had it going for them, 1.2 billion sperm to fertilize 1 egg. And again, that one fertilization is not necessarily going to carry through to birth, right? So looking at that on average, 1.2 billion failures, I'm feeling pretty good with what I've done personally. And I think each of you, judged by that standard, can feel quite good as well. 1.2 billion failures for 1 successful fertilization. So if we look at humans, and here again, Alistair has written some things that I've been thinking about for a long time, whether it's learning to talk, that's not my child. Mine's cuter. Or learning to walk. Yeah, you can see he's learning to talk at the same time. Multitasking. And this is not what not to do when you fail. No, but he gets over it quickly. So, as humans, we don't get anything accomplished without failing. Failing is absolutely a normal part of everything we do, and it's really hard to comprehend because everything culturally, religiously, socially, everything is working against us. Psychologically, of course. And what's interesting to note, think about this, the vast majority of species that had ever walked the earth met with the ultimate failure, extinction. Over 90% of species ever created met with extinction. This is from Paul Ormerod. He's a British economist, so he's got to be right. Failure is by far the single most important feature that biological species have in common. And from Catherine Schultz, a wonderful author, TED speaker, and author of Being Wrong, a treatise on failure, the capacity to err is crucial to human cognition. So failure is absolutely normal. But to make it worth our while, we've got to leverage it. We've got to take the time to acknowledge it, to learn from it, and that's what failing with style or failing intelligently is all about. Now, on Twitter, there are millions and millions of quotes. maybe not millions, but thousands for sure, about failing and leveraging failure to gain success. But driving down here yesterday, and now you'll get a sense of when I had prepared this presentation. Driving down here yesterday on BBC, I heard that a great British statesman and politician had passed away, Tony Benn. And so they were airing a lot of interviews and with him and talking about him and airing stuff that people had to say about him. And one of the things that I heard him say, and I was like, oh my God, this must be a sign or something. I heard him say on the radio yesterday, of course I've failed many times, but that's how you learn, isn't it? So Mr. Tony Benn died at 88 years of age. I'm working on something called the Opportunity Innovation Cycle. I know this is far from perfect and it needs more work, but basically the idea is you think or identify an opportunity, you experiment, you try different things. Most of the time you will fail. You learn, maybe you try a few more things to capture that opportunity. Maybe you manage to push it through to innovation. Most likely you won't always be able to. So what about failure in business? And this is really my personal account now of one of my failures. My biggest one, financially for sure, because we had sunk about $3 million into this. It doesn't sound like a lot compared to what people are losing now, but back in 2000, 2001, although there were a lot of much bigger companies, it was still considered a lot of money to lose. So Veronto was a company we started in 1999, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. At the time, I was at Stanford. A friend of mine, Zach Renat, had just sold a company called Net Dynamics. It was, I don't know if any of you are techies, probably some of you are. It was the first application server which allowed to dish out all of the immense quantities of knowledge and material sitting on mainframe computers and mini computers like the Suns and the DECs and so forth, to dish them out to the web. It was not trivial to get all that stuff out on the web. And so he had sold his company in 1998 to Sun Microsystems for $170 million. And he, at the time, was working as a vice president for Sun, but he was an entrepreneur at heart. He did not like the rigidity and bureaucracy of a very large company. And so he, knowing that I always had a lot of crazy ideas, approached me and offered me the opportunity to become an entrepreneur in residence in this company he had founded. I had spent a few years in retail, and then before going to Stanford, it's been 2 years running marketing for a publicly traded library automation software firm. And so we did. I dropped out of the doctorate program, which, just by the way, is something I regret to this day. So if you're ever faced with a choice between education and business, find some way to balance the two. And we spent the next several months trying to identify an opportunity. We went through hundreds and hundreds of ideas, dozens of different industries. And we had also agreed very early on that what we are going to do is going to be significant. We wanted to build a company to last. If anybody's familiar with Jim Collins' work, he's a good friend of Zach's and wrote a book called Built to Last. And Zach admired him and passed copies of the book out to everybody. And so it had to be a company built to last, doing something significant. Like today with, and I'm sorry if there are people among you developing apps and stuff, a lot of them we know we could do very well without as humanity without. And at the time as well, there were a lot of B2C or business to consumer companies trying to do a lot of silly things like paying you to browse the web and hoping to make money off of that somehow, selling advertising, of course. And we wanted to do something serious in business to business. We had eventually focused on healthcare as the largest and most inefficient market in the world. It still is, by the way, the largest and most inefficient. And decided to start what we call the medical industry marketplace, which would basically allow all of the healthcare providers, all of the healthcare suppliers, all of the healthcare distributors to work through one integrated system online. There were 3 competitors doing this at the time, Neoforma, Medibuy, and Simtech. All 3, for some reason, it was extremely symmetrical, had gone through 4 VC rounds for approximately $150 million each. All 3 had already filed to go public. And here's the kicker. All 3 had no customers. They had all gone down the path of what is called disintermediation, basically removing the distributor from the equation, connecting healthcare providers, healthcare suppliers directly through the web, which is true. It happened in some industries, and it's something you couldn't have done without the web 20 years ago. But in the US alone, that provided you with 330,000 sales targets. Now, a pharma company, which needs to get at all of those targets, employs thousands of sales reps to get at them. And well, maybe with $150 million, you can employ a few hundred sales reps. You definitely can't employ thousands. It's a very difficult proposition. And anytime you try to set up a marketplace, you have a chicken and egg problem, right? You need supply and demand. You need the products, you need the buyers. You need them both at the same time. So we launched a company called Veronto to start the medical industry marketplace, and this is how you launched things at the time, on Hummers and balloons, on whatever. The opportunity we had identified was one of re-intermediation. We analyzed, we were all research-oriented people. We had done a lot of research on the markets. We analyzed it to death. But we found out that distributors in the healthcare industry specifically added a lot of value online that distributors in other industries typically were not adding. So our strategy was to use e-commerce to strengthen the distributor. It gave us the advantage of bringing up all the providers and the manufacturers online at once because they were already working with the distributors, and the distributor was going to bring them up. And it gave us immediate market liquidity because we were just going to migrate their existing processes from paper onto the web. So within less than 1 year from the time we sat down and started thinking about ideas, we had revenues from our first distributor customer. In March 2000, we had run the first web-based end-to-end e-commerce transaction in the healthcare industry anywhere ever. And by April 2000, we had signed up IMCO, which is a buying organization based in Florida, basically about 100 or so different distributors who work together, 120, to leverage their buying power vis-a-vis the suppliers. So $1 billion or more in annual transactions that we were able to bring up immediately. And since this was all going so well, first of all, we decided to start another company called Conduit. There is a relationship, if any of you know Conduit, but it's not the same company. And a technology company, Model N, which would develop the technology and then sell it to all these vertical companies like Veronto, like Conduit, to start to start industry marketplaces in different industries. And as I said, it seemed to be going really, really well. But then a few things happened. First of all, Veronto was financed organically. Zach's money, friends and family, and Model N very quickly, based on the team's expertise in the enterprise software world, managed to raise $30 million from Accel and KKR, bringing Jim Breyer, who actually retired from venture capital recently, but arguably is one of the top, if not the top VC worldwide ever. We had people putting their personal money into this, such as Mark Andreessen of Netscape, LoudCloud, Erik Schmidt, who is now the chairman of Google, and some other people. And so these people had a completely different view on how Model N should go forward. And it completely clashed with how we saw things moving the company forward as Veronto. As I said, pursued a multiple marketplace strategy. So our priorities diverged, and they diverged wildly. And the culture shifted, and there were a lot of fights going on between the teams of the different companies. And then the bubble burst. And the first .com bubble burst in November of 2000. And we were trying to raise follow-on financing, couldn't convince anyone to invest a penny at that time. Almost nobody could. And on February 15th, 2001, after trying very, very hard to win a major Fortune 500 customer, McKesson, if any of you know McKesson, it's the biggest distributor of medical supplies in the United States. And basically what happened was we had diverted so much of our limited resources to pursuing that big customer to make Model N and their investors happy that we had neglected the small customers that had allowed us to succeed so quickly, so early on. And that was that for Veronto. So some statistics on failure in business: 25% of businesses fail within the first year, 50% within the first 5 years, 70%, 7 out of 10 restaurants fail within the first 10 years of operations. 75% of venture-backed firms do not return investor capital at all. Okay, so the proportions are more or less like this. One phenomenal success is the result of 10 investments, which are the result of about 100 meetings with startup teams, which in turn are the result of about 1,000 business plans, which you can extrapolate to being the result of about 10,000 ideas. And that's where, everybody knows what that is now, right? Or no? Yeah? That's where something like WhatsApp starts and ends up receiving $19 billion from Facebook. So, I mean, if you ask me, that's the start of the bursting of the second bubble, but we'll wait and see. There is a slightly, well, not slightly, but a happy end to the story. Model N did go public after 15 years on March 20th of last year. So there was some success incorporated into that failure. And I found that learning from failure is perhaps some of the best, if not the best, learning that I've personally ever done. So thank you very much for your time. I'm Steiner on failure, and I'd also love to have all of you follow me on Twitter. Thank you very much. Do you want to see if there are some questions, or?
A few questions. We'll just quickly take a few questions. Just 1 or 2 questions if anyone has any. Shout them out. Don't be shy.
Did you manage to keep smiling all through your failure?
I'm sorry?
Did you manage to keep smiling?
Not always, not always. After we shut down Veronto, I had this energy drop. I was as sick as I ever was in my life for 10 days. And I mean, I was in bed for 10 days, but most of the time. Yeah.
When it happened, when the failure like that happened, how did the people around you in those 10 days react? And what?
Well, I didn't talk to anybody in those days. No.
When you emerged from the cave, with your kind of...
Oh, it was good. Yeah, we had like a get together of all the people who were. Most of the people were fired. A handful received offers to continue with Model N. Actually, some of them went through all the way and were in that picture at the NYSE. We put together a circle, a group online. And for a while, we were all communicating with each other, but everybody went their separate ways eventually. I just met with one of them, a doctor that I had hired out of Chicago and relocated to the Bay Area. And just met with him in January. I was in Palo Alto. And, we reminisced a little bit.
Well, just wondered what your attitude to failure was at the time. Was there anything that you didn't, last great lived in hindsight? Do you think there's anything that you could have done earlier to prevent failure?
Yeah, we should have. We were so confident of what we were doing, and preparing for this and looking through all of that again, I was thinking, wow, we were smart. We really knew what we were doing, and we were overconfident, and we were sure we could raise financing with everything that we had going for us. The team and Zach with his previous success, and all of these top tier MBA peak guys, and just we had set everything up by the book. We had Kirk Rabb, the founder of Genentech, on our board. We really built everything just as you should, and we're absolutely certain that it's just a matter of asking for money and we'll receive it. So we should have gone out a lot earlier. Nobody could have foreseen the bursting of the dot-com bubble in early 2000, but by mid-2000 it was quite clear where things were going. I see you nodding your head as someone who knows and has been through that.
I'm even older than that. Can I ask you a question? Do you now look after your small customers?
Do I what? I'm sorry?
Now look after your small customers. You said you ignored the small customers.
Well, yeah, we didn't ignore them, but what happened was you have limited resources. All of Veronto was 25 people. And once they were starting to go online almost in droves, the first 2 weeks of February, just before we shut down, were already twice as active as the previous 2 weeks. But they were coming up with all of these requests, do this, do that, we need this, we need that, and we were not able, sometimes to even answer their calls. So that was obviously very, very bad. What we should have done, if we would have scaled back, scaled down, focused on those small customers, we probably could have made a go out of it. But the politics and the culture was such that we were not able to. Thank you very much.